The stars above New Carthage shone bright, but the people of the human colony world did not look up with peace. Orbiting high above, a massive alien ship hovered, casting a shadow over the planet's skies. It was not a friendly visit. It was a warning. Ambassador Cathrall of the Coalition of Vol stood in the grand chamber of the orbital station. His tall frame, wrapped in dark metallic armor, gave him the look of a conqueror rather than a diplomat. His voice was cold and sharp, echoing in the room filled with human officers, reporters, and civilians. "Humans," Cathrall said, his four eyes glowing like coals. "Your species has wandered too far. You claim lanes that are not yours. You build stations on routes that belong to the Coalition. You must surrender these territories and dismantle your fleets. If you do not, we will do it for you." The chamber went silent. Everyone stared, some in shock, others in anger. The words hung heavy in the air. Admiral Mira Saeed, commander of Human Defense Fleet, stepped forward. She was calm, her uniform spotless, her face showing no fear. She studied the alien ambassador before replying. "We respect your coalition," she said, her voice clear. "But humanity will not surrender what it has built. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not disarm." Cathrall's lips curled into something that looked like a smile but carried no warmth. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. It is an ultimatum. Comply or be neutralized." Gasps filled the room. Reporters sent messages racing across the colonies. The Coalition had delivered a threat to all of humanity. Back on Earth in the Great Hall of Human Command, the message was replayed before the Council of Leaders. Holoscreen showed the ambassador's face, his cold eyes repeating the threat. Around the table sat admirals, generals, scientists, and diplomats. The mood was tense. Captain Jonah Reyes leaned back in his chair, his hand tapping the table. He was younger than most, known for daring missions and quick thinking. "Neutralized," he muttered. "That's their polite way of saying destroyed." Dr. Leon Park, the scientist, frowned. "The Coalition fleets outnumber ours 5-1. Their technology is older, but they've perfected it. If this turns to war, billions will suffer. We need to find a way to avoid it. But if we bend now," Jonah said, leaning forward, "we give them everything. Our trade lanes, our colonies, our freedom. That isn't peace. That's slavery." Admiral Mira sat at the head of the table. She raised her hand, silencing the debate. Her eyes moved slowly across the council. "We cannot outgun them ship for ship," she said. "But humans are survivors. We've lived on worlds others called uninhabitable. We've adapted where others failed. If they force us into war, we will fight in our way, not theirs." News of the ultimatum spread fast. On Mars, miners stopped their drills and stared at the broadcast, fists clenched. On Luna, children asked their teachers why aliens wanted to take their home. On distant colonies, farmers swore to defend their land with whatever they had. Humanity was not rich in fleets or weapons, but it was rich in spirit. Yet fear also spread. Families began evacuating border colonies. Trade slowed. Rumors of alien ships gathering near the jump lanes filled the networks. 2 days later, it began. A mining convoy near the Helios belt was ambushed. Coalition drones swept out of the void, sleek and precise, attacking with plasma bursts. The convoy's escorts, a few human corvettes, scrambled to defend. Jonah was there, commanding from the bridge of the escort ship Resolute. He barked orders, his crew moving fast. The drones flew in perfect formations, their weapons cutting through shields. "Helm, spin us around that asteroid cluster," Jonah shouted. "Gunners, hold your fire until my mark." The Resolute darted into the shadows of broken rocks. The drones followed, their formations tight. Jonah grinned. "Now!" The gunners unleashed a barrage not at the drones directly, but at the rocks around them. The asteroids cracked and shifted, sending debris flying into the drone formation. Sensors scrambled, drones collided, and half the swarm tore itself apart. The convoy slipped through the chaos, escaping with only minor damage. It was a small victory, but it mattered. The news spread quickly. Humans had survived their first clash. In the War Council, reports came in. Admiral Mira studied the maps of the jump lanes, marked with red where Coalition fleets moved. "They're testing us," she said, "probing our defenses." Looking for weakness, Dr. Leon nodded. "Their drones run on predictable algorithms. We can exploit that. Old Earth navies used similar tricks, false signals, decoys. We can adapt," Jonah leaned forward. "We can't match them with big fleets, but we can outthink them. We can turn every freighter into a weapon, every station into a trap, make them bleed time and resources. The room grew quiet as they all realized the truth. Humanity was not going to surrender. On the fourth day, Ambassador Cathrell sent his final transmission. His voice carried across every channel, broadcast on every colony. "Humans," he declared, "you have rejected peace. You have chosen war. Your fleets will be shattered, your colonies erased, your people scattered. You will learn the cost of defiance." For a moment, silence filled the airwaves. Then Human Command replied. Admiral Mira stood before the camera, her face strong, her eyes steady. "Final message to the coalition of Vol," she said. "You chose war. Now we'll show you how it's done." The words echoed across every human world. On Earth, crowds cheered. On Mars, miners raised their tools like weapons. On Luna, children shouted the phrase in playgrounds. Humanity had spoken. The war had begun. Above New Carthage, the first coalition warships began to move. Their engines lit the darkness, preparing to strike human space. In Human Command, Admiral Mira looked out over her officers. "This is the fight of our lives," she said. "We will not seek destruction, but we will not bow. We will fight with courage, with cunning, and with unity. The galaxy will learn what it means to challenge humanity." Captain Jonah smiled, eager for the battles to come. Dr. Leon adjusted her glasses, already calculating strategies to save lives. Across the stars, humanity braced itself. The coalition thought they had delivered an ultimatum. Instead, they had awakened a species that had never once surrendered in its history. The humans would show them. The first week of war was chaos. Coalition fleets pressed into human space with confidence. Their warships were sleek, precise, and filled with centuries of perfected technology. To them, it was supposed to be easy. Humans were new to the stars. Their fleets were smaller, their stations young, their colonies spread thin. But humans were not soft targets. On the edge of the Vega system, alarms rang in the orbital station Athena. Coalition ships had appeared out of the jump lane. Their formation was perfect. 6 destroyers escorted by dozens of drones. The humans on Athena scrambled. Civilians rushed to shelters while defense crews prepared. Admiral Mira Saeed stood at the command deck. Her face was calm, her voice steady, though she knew they were outnumbered. "Shields at full," she ordered. "Evacuation priority is civilians. Delay the enemy, do not waste lives." Coalition weapons lit the void, raining fire on the station. But Mira had prepared. The Athena's surface split open, releasing hundreds of decoys, metal canisters rigged with transmitters. To the enemy's scanners, it looked like a swarm of human fighters. The coalition opened fire, wasting energy on the illusions. In those minutes of confusion, evacuation ships slipped away, carrying thousands of colonists to safety. When the coalition finally cut through the deception, the station was burning. Mira gave the final order: abandon station. The defenders escaped in small craft, while Athena exploded in a controlled blast, denying the enemy a prize. The coalition thought they had won a victory, but humans had saved their people. To Admiral Mira, that mattered more than any station. Meanwhile, Captain Jonah Reyes was leading his own war in the shadows. He commanded a task force of small ships, old freighters, and retrofitted corvettes. The coalition dismissed such vessels as useless, but Jonah knew better. He had taken inspiration from Earth's history. Pirates, smugglers, and guerrilla fighters had survived against stronger enemies by using speed and cunning. Jonah would do the same. On the border of the Deneb system, his ships drifted quietly, their engines cold, pretending to be abandoned freighters. Coalition supply ships moved into the lane, carrying fuel and ammunition for the front lines. The enemy escort scanned and saw nothing but junk. Hold, Jonah whispered, watching the scanner. The coalition ships passed. At that moment, the human freighters came alive. Engines roared, hidden weapons unfolded, and missiles streaked across the void. Coalition escorts exploded in seconds. The humans slipped away before reinforcements arrived, leaving chaos behind. It was not a massive battle, but it was enough to slow the enemy. The coalition began to realize humans were not predictable prey. Dr. Leon Park worked day and night in the labs of Earth's lunar base. Her team studied captured coalition drones. She was tired, her hands shaking from too much coffee, but her mind was sharp. "These drones think in straight lines," she explained to her assistants. "They follow orders without adapting. If we feed them false data, they obey it blindly." She designed devices the size of crates, fitted with emitters that mimicked human ships. These decoys could float in space, tricking enemy scanners. A single freighter could carry dozens and scatter them like seeds. When Admiral Mira saw the results, she nodded with approval. "This is how we fight them," she said. "Not with bigger guns, but with smarter tools." The coalition continued its advance. On the colony of Horizon, civilians feared the worst as enemy fleets appeared in orbit. Ambassador Cathrell broadcast another speech, his tone dripping with arrogance. "Humans waste resources on colonies they cannot defend. This world belongs to the coalition now. Leave or be erased." But something unexpected happened. Before the coalition could fire, a group of smaller alien merchants, the Koru, intercepted the broadcast. "We have seen your threats," their leader said. "We will not help you erase. We will help them resist." The Koru were not a powerful species. They were traders and explorers, not warriors. But their support gave humanity something more valuable than firepower, proof that not all aliens stood with the coalition. In the weeks that followed, the war became strange. Coalition fleets would enter human space expecting clear battles. Instead, they found empty stations, decoys, and sudden ambushes. At one point, a coalition commander proudly announced he had cornered 10 human ships near the Epsilon Belt. But when he attacked, half the ships vanished. They had been holographic illusions projected by old mining satellites. By the time he realized the trick, the real human fleet had slipped away and destroyed his supply line. Again and again, the coalition grew frustrated. Their war manuals did not prepare them for an enemy that refused to fight by the book. Captain Jonah became famous for daring raids. In one mission, he disguised his ship as a drifting wreck, letting it be towed by coalition salvagers. At the perfect moment, he unleashed an electromagnetic pulse that fried their systems, then escaped with their cargo. His crew cheered, calling him reckless but brilliant. Jonah just shrugged. "They started this," he said. "We'll finish it our way." But the war was not only about battles, it was about choices. One day, a human patrol captured a coalition shuttle. Inside were enemy soldiers, frightened and wounded. The human commander could have executed them. Some officers demanded it. But Admiral Mira gave a strict order. "We are not butchers. Treat them as prisoners of war. Feed them. Heal them." When the coalition prisoners returned home in a later exchange, they carried stories that shocked their people. Humans were fighting fiercely, but with honor. They did not kill needlessly. These stories spread quietly, but they mattered. Some species in the coalition began to ask questions. Were the humans really savages, as Cathrell claimed? Or were they something else? Ambassador Cathrell grew furious. Every broadcast he made sounded more desperate. "Do not be fooled by human tricks," he shouted. "They are weak, unworthy of the stars. Their survival is only temporary." But his words carried less weight than before. Neutral species were watching closely. Many began to wonder, if humans could stand against the mighty coalition, perhaps they deserved respect. Then came a turning point. Coalition engineers unveiled a weapon that could collapse a jump lane permanently. With it, they could cut human space into pieces, isolating colonies from Earth. The first test destroyed an empty lane, sending ripples of energy through space. When Mira saw the report, her heart sank. "If they use this on our main routes, our worlds will be stranded." Jonah slammed his fist on the table. "Then we have to stop them before they do." Dr. Leon leaned forward, her mind already racing. "If we can study the collapse, maybe we can build a counter. Something to shield our lanes." Mira looked around the room. The path was clear. Humanity could not survive by running forever. It was time to strike back. Time to take the war to the coalition's strongest weapon. Across human space, messages spread. Soldiers prepared. Engineers worked without rest, and civilians dug deep to support the war effort. Humanity was no longer just defending. They were planning. The storm of war was only beginning, and the edges had already shown the truth. Humans were not easy prey. They were fighters, thinkers, survivors. The war had now burned across human space for more than a month. Skirmishes and raids filled the stars. The coalition had destroyed stations, collapsed colonies, and cut trade routes, but they had not broken humanity. Instead, every attack made the humans more determined. Admiral Mira Said studied the holographic map in human command. Red lights showed coalition fleets moving through the jump lanes. Blue lights showed human defenses, few, scattered, but still standing. She knew the truth. In open battle, humanity would lose. But this war would not be fought in open battle. "This will be a long game," Mira said to the gathered commanders. "We cannot defeat them in one strike. We must deny them easy victory, bleed their resources, and make them doubt. Time will be our weapon." Captain Jonah Reyes leaned against the wall, a grin on his face. "So we keep harassing them, hitting supply lines, avoiding big fights." "I can live with that." Dr. Leon Park adjusted her glasses. She looked exhausted from endless nights in the lab, but her mind was sharp. "And we study them. Every weapon, every system, every mistake. Humans learn fast. Faster than they expect," the council agreed. Humanity would fight smart. Humanity would fight with patience. Humanity would fight like survivors, but patience came with sacrifice. On the colony world of Haven, thousands prepared to leave their homes. Coalition fleets were pushing closer, and Admiral Mira had ordered evacuation. Families packed what they could into transports. Children cried as they left behind houses, farms, and schools. Governor Elena, a stern woman with silver hair, stood before her people. "We leave today not in defeat, but in defiance. We deny the enemy a prize. We will return when the war is won." As the last transport lifted off, Admiral Mira gave the signal. Human engineers detonated charges across the colony's infrastructure. Power plants, fuel depots, shipyards, all destroyed. Haven would not feed the coalition war machine. The people were safe, but the loss was heavy. For many, it felt like giving up a piece of their soul. Mira carried that weight, but she knew it was necessary. While colonies evacuated, Jonah prepared for his most daring mission yet. Intelligence showed the coalition building a massive device, a jump lane collapse weapon stronger than before. If it was finished, humanity could lose half its space in one strike. Jonah gathered his crew aboard the Resolute. The ship's interior smelled of oil and recycled air, patched together from too many repairs. His crew were misfits, pilots, smugglers, engineers, but they trusted him. "We're going to steal their parts," Jonah told them with a grin. "Not just destroy. We take what we can, and Dr. Leon will figure out how it works." "Dangerous? Sure. Impossible? Maybe fun?" "Definitely." His crew groaned, but none refused. The mission began with silence. The Resolute drifted near a coalition construction site, pretending to be wreckage. When the enemy patrols passed, Jonah's team moved fast. They boarded the outer platforms using old magnetic boots and hand-cutting tools. They stripped panels, stole data cores, and even detached entire modules. When alarms finally rang, Jonah shouted, "Time to go." His crew scrambled back carrying stolen tech. Coalition fighters gave chase, but Jonah spun his ship into a dense asteroid field. Drones followed, only to crash against rocks. The Resolute escaped battered but alive, its cargo hold filled with priceless parts. Dr. Leon nearly cried with joy when she saw the haul. "With this, I can design a shield against their lane weapon," she exclaimed. "We may even turn their own technology against them." Not all missions went smoothly. In the Trident system, a small human fleet tried to lure the enemy into a trap. But the coalition sent more ships than expected. The human commander made a choice. He ordered his fleet to scatter, drawing the enemy away while his flagship stayed behind. The flagship fought until its last gun was silent, buying time for the others to escape. The news reached every human world. People mourned the lost crew, but they also celebrated their sacrifice. Songs were written about the last ship of Trident. Humanity learned that victory was not only about winning battles, but about inspiring hope. Meanwhile, diplomacy began to shift. The neutral Koru traders, impressed by human courage, offered more than words. They began to share safe harbors, hidden stations where human ships could resupply. They also spread stories of human honor across the galaxy. "They could have killed prisoners," one Koru merchant said to another species. "They did not. They could have surrendered their colonies. They chose to fight. These humans are different." Slowly, whispers spread. Smaller species under coalition rule began to wonder, could the humans actually stand a chance? Could they too resist? Inside the coalition council, cracks appeared. Ambassador Cathril shouted in anger during a session. "Humans are nothing but vermin, yet they cost us ships, supplies, and time. If we do not crush them now, we risk emboldening others." But some of his fellow ambassadors were less certain. Reports of defections, failed assaults, and prisoner stories made them uneasy. The humans were supposed to be weak. Instead, they were proving stronger than expected. One Admiral Tarek sneered. We should not listen to cowards. Give me command and I will end this war in weeks. I will burn their worlds until nothing remains. The council hesitated. Some feared Tarek's ruthlessness. Others, desperate for victory, supported him. The seeds of division were planted. Back in human space, Dr. Lien completed her first countermeasure against the Lane weapon. It was crude, rushed and untested, but it might work. She presented it to Admiral Mira and Captain Jonah. If we place these stabilizers near a jump lane, they should absorb the energy of a collapse attempt. It won't be perfect, but it could save a lane. Jonah whistled. You mean we get to keep our roads open while they waste resources trying to close them? I like it. Mira nodded. Prepare the devices. We'll need them soon. But Mira faced another test of morality. Her intelligence officers had captured a coalition warship intact. Some suggested using it as a weapon. Fly it into enemy space and detonate its core, killing thousands. Mira refused. We will not become monsters to win. If we cross that line, then we prove them right about us. Instead, she ordered the ship studied and refitted. Within weeks, the vessel flew again, this time under human command. With coalition technology turned against its creators, the message was clear. Humanity would fight hard, but with honor. One night, Mira stood alone in the war room, watching the stars on the holographic map. She knew the cost ahead. More colonies would burn, more lives would be lost. But she also knew something else. The coalition thought they were fighting for control. Humanity was fighting for survival, for family, for freedom. That difference made all the difference. She whispered to herself, "This is the long game, and we will win it." Across the galaxy, the balance began to shift. Coalition fleets still held the advantage, but their victories grew hollow. Humans adapted faster than they could respond. Every loss taught humanity something new. Every sacrifice fueled resolve. The war had burned across the stars for months. Both sides had lost ships, soldiers, and entire colonies. But for the humans, loss did not mean surrender. It meant they fought harder. The Zorath Empire had expected a quick victory. Instead, they found themselves dragged into a storm of human stubbornness. On board the UNS Resolute, Admiral Hayes stood in the command room, staring at the tactical map. Red dots marked enemy fleets. Blue dots marked human fleets. The red still outnumbered the blue, but the balance was slowly shifting. Status report, Hayes ordered. Enemy fleet in Sector 9 is regrouping, said Commander Liu. But sir, their movements look hesitant, almost like they're afraid of another trap. Hayes allowed himself a thin smile. Good, fear is a weapon too, and humans know how to use it. The galaxy watches, the conflict had become impossible for the rest of the galaxy to ignore. Dozens of alien species had been watching silently from the sidelines, afraid to choose a side. They saw humanity, a species barely a century in space, standing against the Zorath, an empire that had ruled for thousands of years. Many alien leaders gathered in secret councils. Some whispered, "The humans are doomed. They cannot last." Others shook their heads and said, "Perhaps we have underestimated them." In one hidden chamber, the Krell ambassador pounded his clawed hand on the table. "I warned you all. The humans are not weak. Look at them. They lose planets, yet they fight harder. They lose fleets, yet they strike deeper. They turn every defeat into fire. Still, most waited, unsure who would win. They wanted proof. They wanted to see if humans could do more than just survive. The Battle of Cora Prime Proof came at Cora Prime, a vital human colony at the edge of Zorath space. The Zorath sent 3 fleets determined to wipe it out. They believed it would crush human morale once and for all. Admiral Hayes knew they would come. He set his trap. Human fleets hid in asteroid belts. Stealth ships carried decoy signals. Ground forces prepared ambushes. Even civilians had been armed and trained, refusing to evacuate. When the Zorath fleets arrived, their commanders laughed. Only a few human ships. This will be quick. Then the trap closed. Missiles erupted from the asteroids. Hidden railguns tore through enemy cruisers. Human stealth bombers slipped past shields, planting charges on massive dreadnoughts. On the ground, human marines fought like demons, turning city ruins into kill zones. For 2 days, the battle raged. The Zorath expected fear. Instead, they met rage. Human soldiers shouted battle cries as they charged. Civilians fought beside trained warriors. Even when surrounded, humans refused to yield. By the 3rd day, the Zorath fleet was in chaos. Their ships pulled back, broken and bleeding. Humanity had not only defended Cora Prime, they had destroyed 2/3 of the invading force. A shift in the war news of the victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Neutral species who once doubted humans began to whisper with awe. On Zorath worlds, citizens began to question their leaders. How can an empire of 10,000 years not crush these humans? Some even feared the humans more than their own rulers. Inside the Zorath High Command, silence filled the council chamber. Their warlords stared at the reports. Tens of thousands of ships lost. Entire armies defeated by what they once called primitives. One warlord slammed his fist on the table. This is impossible. They were supposed to break. They were supposed to kneel. Another growled. Then we underestimated them. These humans, they do not understand surrender. For the first time, the mighty Zorath Empire felt doubt. Humanity's new strategy after Cora Prime, humans did not just defend, they attacked. Instead of waiting for the enemy to strike, they launched daring raids deep into Zorath territory. Small fleets would strike supply lines, vanish, then strike again elsewhere. Marines boarded enemy stations, seizing data and destroying weapons. Resistance movements rose up on Zorath-controlled worlds, secretly supported by human operatives. The Zorath, used to straightforward conquest, struggled against this new style of war. It was not about numbers. It was about creativity, flexibility, and sheer willpower. Admiral Hayes explained it best to his commanders. We cannot outnumber them, but we can outthink them. We can outlast them. Remember, the Zorath fight for power. We fight for survival. That makes us dangerous in ways they cannot understand. The turning point months later came the operation that would change everything. Humans called it Operation Iron Dawn. Its goal, strike directly at the Zorath command station orbiting the star Rythal, a fortress no enemy had ever dared to attack. The plan was reckless, bold, and insane. Exactly the kind of plan humans were famous for. The Resolute led a fleet of only 50 ships against a station guarded by hundreds. But hidden within the fleet were experimental human weapons, gravity torpedoes, EMP disruptors, and new stealth tech. As the human fleet jumped into Rythal space, alarms blared across the Zorath defenses. 50 ships? A Zorath commander sneered. They dare challenge us with so few? Crush them. But the battle did not go as expected. Human gravity torpedoes ripped enemy cruisers apart, bending space itself to tear their hulls open. EMP disruptors silenced entire squadrons. Stealth ships slipped past defenses and detonated reactors inside the station itself. For every human ship destroyed, 3 Zorath ships burned. The sky over Rythal became fire. Finally, Admiral Hayes gave the order. All forces, strike the station. Show them what humanity is made of. The Resolute's guns lit up the darkness, hammering the fortress. Explosions ripped through the massive structure until at last, the impossible happened. The station fell. Operation Iron Dawn was a success. Humanity had struck the heart of the Zorath Empire, and survived. The galaxy responds. The destruction of the Rythal command station shocked the galaxy. For the first time in history, the Zorath Empire had suffered defeat on their own ground. Alien leaders who once doubted now reached out to humanity. Offers of alliance, supplies, and technology poured in. Species long oppressed by the Zorath began to rise in rebellion, inspired by human defiance. Humanity had done the unthinkable. They had turned the tide of the war. The Zorath reaction on the Zorath homeworld, the High Council raged. This war was supposed to be over in weeks. One cried, another hissed. If we cannot crush them soon, others will rise against us. We will lose everything we built. But deep down they knew the truth. The humans had changed the war. The humans had made the Empire bleed. And worse, the humans were only growing stronger. The message after the victory at Rythal. Admiral Hayes sent a transmission to every corner of space. It was short, simple, and powerful. We did not choose this war. You forced it upon us. But now the galaxy knows the truth. Humanity does not bow. If you want to continue this fight, know this: we will not stop. We will not break. We will not kneel. We will show you what it means to challenge Earth. The message spread across every world, human and alien alike. For the first time, the galaxy believed humanity could win. The war was far from over. The Zorath still had more fleets, more soldiers, more resources. But something had changed. The humans were no longer seen as prey. They were no longer underestimated, they were feared. The galaxy held its breath. The war had raged for nearly a year. Entire fleets had been destroyed, colonies had burned, and the coalition of Zorath had learned the hard way that humans were not to be underestimated. Yet humanity stood tall, battle-worn but undefeated, proving time and again that they were clever, resourceful, and unyielding. Admiral Mira Saeed looked over the command room of the UNS Resolute, her hands clasped behind her back. The holographic map glowed with red dots marking Zorath positions and blue dots marking human fleets. Though outnumbered in raw ships, humans had turned strategy into strength. Alliances with neutral species had strengthened their position, and coalition morale was beginning to fracture. "This is it," she said quietly. "The final push." Captain Jonah Reyes, leaning against the console, cracked a small smile. "Finally, we get to end this." Dr. Leon Park adjusted her glasses, peering at the display. "Our countermeasures are in place. If we execute correctly, the Zorath's doomsday device will be neutralized and we can finish the war without destroying millions." Mira nodded. "We fight smart, we fight honorably. That is how humanity wins." The last operation, the Zorath had built a massive weapon, a jump lane collapse device capable of isolating entire human sectors from each other. If detonated, millions could be stranded, colonies left to starve or fall. Humanity could not allow that. Jonah's fleet moved quietly toward the device's hidden base. The fleet was small, 50 ships in total, but each carried humans' latest technological marvels, stealth modules, gravity manipulators, and advanced electronic countermeasures. As they approached, Zorath sensors lit up. "Intruders detected!" A voice boomed. Red fleets surged to intercept. Mira's calm voice cut through the tension. "All units execute the plan. Stick to your roles. Protect civilians if any are nearby. No unnecessary destruction." The humans moved as one. Decoys scattered, leading parts of the Zorath fleet into traps. Stealth ships slipped past the main defenses, boarding enemy craft and stations. Gravity torpedoes tore hulls open without killing those inside. EMP pulses disabled weapons without explosions. Every attack was precise. Within hours, the humans reached the core of the jump lane device. Engineers and scientists worked quickly, diffusing the weapon and converting its systems into a universal broadcast transmitter. The doomsday device, meant to destroy human space, now became a tool to tell the galaxy the truth. Turning enemies into witnesses, captured Zorath crews were held on board the Resolute. Admiral Mira spoke to them directly. "You were following orders. You did what you were told. But humanity fights to survive, not to dominate. You will be returned safely. The galaxy will see what truly happened here." The prisoners, shocked by the mercy, nodded silently. Some whispered to each other that humans were unlike any enemy they had faced. They had strength, yes, but also honor and wisdom. The broadcast from the repurposed doomsday device was sent to every corner of the galaxy. Human Command told the story of the war, the Coalition's aggression, and the humans' defense. The message emphasized morality, courage, and unity over vengeance. Neutral species watched, some for the first time seeing humans not as primitives but as equals, or even leaders. The Coalition crumbles within the Zorath High Command. Chaos reigned. Admiral Tarek, furious and humiliated, demanded one last desperate strike, but many of his own officers refused. They had seen what humans were capable of, precise, honorable, and unstoppable when united. Ambassador Cathrell, his arrogance shattered, realized defeat was inevitable. The galaxy no longer feared the Zorath. They feared humans. The Coalition fractured. Some factions surrendered while others fled. Humanity's honor and cunning had turned the tide without indiscriminate slaughter. For the first time in history, the Zorath Empire acknowledged that humans were not to be underestimated. Humanity's victory on New Carthage, Earth and the other colonies, people cheered as the news reached them. The war was over. Humanity had survived against impossible odds. And in surviving, they had done more than defend their space, they had reshaped the galaxy. Admiral Mira addressed all fleets through the universal broadcast. The Coalition believed they could crush us. They believed they could force humans to surrender. They were wrong. We did not fight for glory or conquest. We fought for our homes, our families, and our future. And today humanity has shown the galaxy what it means to endure, to resist, and to rise above fear. This is our final message. The humans do not bow, and we never will. The message resonated. Across human space, civilians, soldiers, and scientists celebrated not just survival but honor. The galaxy listened. Allies came forward offering trade, protection, and friendship. The once powerful Zorath were forced to negotiate, humbled by humans' cunning and resolve. Rebuilding and alliances with the war over, humanity turned to rebuilding. Colonies damaged in the war were restored. Trade routes reopened. Neutral species inspired by humans' courage offered technology, medicine, and resources. A new coalition of allies began to form, a galaxy-wide pact not of fear but of respect. Dr. Leon led efforts to convert captured Zorath technology for peaceful purposes. Energy systems that once powered weapons now powered colonies. Navigation lanes stabilized, communications expanded, and humanity shared knowledge with allies. Captain Jonah trained new pilots, showing them how to think creatively and fight smart. Young cadets learned that war was not just about firepower, but about heart, courage, and cleverness. Mira finally allowed herself a moment of rest. She looked at the stars and smiled faintly. Humanity had not only survived, they had grown stronger, wiser, and more respected than ever before. The last words on the Resolute? As fleets returned from their final missions, Admiral Mira sent a closing message across the galaxy. To every species that doubted humanity, we did not seek war, but we will meet it with courage. We fight to protect, to endure, and to rise above. Today, humanity has proven that survival is not enough, we will thrive. And to the galaxy, never mistake kindness for weakness. Humanity will always show what it can do when pushed to the edge. The words were simple, but they carried weight. They were not a threat, they were a declaration, a promise. And everywhere across the stars, those words were remembered. Humans had chosen honor. Humans had chosen courage. And humans had shown the galaxy how it was truly done. Epilogue. Legacy years later, the galaxy was changed. Former enemies became allies. Trade flourished. Science advanced rapidly. Planets that were once battlefields now hosted schools, hospitals, and research stations. Young humans grew up hearing stories of the war. They learned not just about battles, but about leadership, morality, and cleverness. Humanity's reputation spread beyond their space, inspiring countless species to fight oppression with courage and honor. Admiral Mira retired to teach strategy to future commanders. Captain Jonah explored deep space, discovering new routes and possibilities. Dr. Leon built technologies to improve life, not destroy it. And humanity continued to grow, ready to face whatever the galaxy might throw at them next. The final message remained a lesson. When challenged, humans would not bow. They would not surrender. They would rise, adapt, and endure. The galaxy had learned a truth it could not forget. Humanity does not kneel, and when forced to fight, humanity shows the universe how it's done.